Welcome to the morning after week 2 of 2015 edition. We'll call this one Throwback week as we had a couple players kind of step up that haven't been relevant fantasy-wise for a long time. We'll get to that in a little bit, but first, there was a big trade this week in the CFFL. I don't know if you guys have seen it, but we'll take a look at it right now and delve a little deeper into it. First of all, we had Team LBM and the Kongs made a trade. The Little Big Men traded Golden Tate and Brandon Cooks, their second and fourth round picks this year, for Des Bryant and Monty Ball. Well, doesn't seem right. I think that's the reaction of most owners in the league, but it probably really can't be that bad. I mean, Des Bryant, at the time of the trade, looked like 4 to 6 weeks that he'd be out. And Monty Ball was a former second-round pick who's now currently without a team, for a guy who was drafted in the second round and a guy who was drafted in the fourth round. Des now looks like, at the time there was rumors of 6 to 8 weeks, and now Michael Rappaport from NFL Network is reporting 10 to 12 weeks. Yeah. I think this is the ultimate head scratcher in league history. Kudos to you, Chad, though. I mean, taking the gutsy move of making a move like that. A little rash, probably, before finding out how long he'd actually be out. So took a chance. Can't go wrong with that. But also, thank you, Chad. I think you've taken me off the hook for having the worst trade in the CFFL history of the D'Angelo Williams for a defense trade back in the day when I had like 6 running backs deep. They all got hurt then, and D'Angelo Williams went off. But that helped. I think that helped. I think you let me off the hook. Actually, surprisingly, we will actually have more about D'Angelo Williams here in a little bit. But now let's get to the games from this past week. The upset of the week was only a minor one as the Cardinals took down the Horned Dogs, the defending champions, 87 to 75. The Cardinals were only favored to lose by 3, or predicted to lose by 3. Brady and Gronk continued their strong ways, that should say, for the Cardinals. 35.5 points combined. Antonio Brown had a really good day, 18.5 points. Cardinals were assisted at the end by a Frank Gore fumbling when there was no one around him near the goal line, and Adam Vinatieri missing a chip shot, although still would have fallen short, but it would have been a heck of a lot closer. This week also saw the Badgers move to 2-0 as they take down the Black Dingoes, 72.5 to 49.5. Carson Palmer, a guy who, again, really hasn't been fantasy relevant for a while, but the first 2 weeks of the year he has 19.5 points. Aaron Rodgers for the Black Dingoes had 14.5 in a losing effort. The Kongs, the aforementioned Kongs, making that deal. Neither one of those guys really did too much this week. They fell 74 to 72. Gostkowski had 19 points, and again, the guy we mentioned a few minutes earlier, D'Angelo Williams, had 22 points. As the Garbage Men moved to 1-1 with a 74 to 72 win. In a battle of teams that really didn't produce very well, Team Price is Right took down the Little Big Men 43 to 40.5. Adrian Peterson had 10 points for the Team Price is Right, who was the only player that he had in double figures. The Little Big Men had 2 guys in double figures. Mason Crosby led him with 16 points. 2 teams that are struggling, but hey, the Price is Right did move to 1-1 with the win. So a win is a win, even if it's an ugly win. Bruisers moved to 2-0 as they took down the Gargoyles, 58.5 to 41. Eddie Lacy's injury was pretty devastating for the Gargoyles as he had 0 points. Big Ben there, it's what it should say, for the Gargoyles had 22 points. The rest of his team struggled mightily with only 19 points amongst them. Bruisers were led by the Arizona defense with 16 points. Final game this week saw the Bone Storm take down the Bucks, 77.5 to 56. Bone Storm moved to 1-1. The Bucks fall to 0-2. Bucks also lost quarterback Tony Romo in the game for it looks like about 8 weeks. Justin Tucker led him with 15 points. The starting receivers for the Bone Storm is what carried him with 47.5 points combined. That's Edelman, Allen Robinson, and Megatron all combined for that. So, kind of a strange week in the CFFL. As I said, it was Throwback week. You had Carson Palmer, you had D'Angelo Williams. The player of the week actually wasn't started, but he's a guy who hasn't had that type of game in a long time, and we'll get to him next. But a lot of injuries this week again. But we'll move ahead right now to the player of the week on a happier note. Not so much for me. I debated starting this guy for a while, but I decided he didn't have the upside of Terrence Williams and Devontae Adams. 3 touchdowns, 112 yards receiving, 24.5 points for Larry Fitzgerald. Didn't cost me the win at least, but yeah, heck of a game by Fitzgerald. Moving back in a fantasy relevancy this week. Walk of shame. I could give it to Team LBM, but I don't want to pile on. I don't want to beat a dead horse, so I won't. But you were an honorable mention for sure this week, Chad. Injured quarterbacks this week, and I got to save the same slide and do this by changing it from injured receivers to injured quarterbacks. Tony Romo of the Bucks, Matt Stafford, Drew Brees, Jay Cutler are all likely to miss at least a few games, with Romo out about 8 weeks, being the worst of the group in terms of injury. Griff's gripes this week. Not a full-blown gripe from Griff this week. Just more or less looking at DeMarco Murray and what the heck has happened to him. He has now 11 yards on the season, and it is the worst statistical start in NFL history for a running back. At one point during the game, he had negative 15 yards, constantly getting hit in the backfield. That offensive line is terrible. This is what you get, I guess, when you don't pay your offensive lineman and think you can win because you're playing University of Cal, Berkeley, and Eastern Washington. Chip Kelly, they're not on your schedule anymore. I don't know. They're going to have to shake that off. In the other league, I have a lot of Eagles, so I'm really hoping they kind of do a little bit. Next up, the top free agent pickup of the week, Yo Bitch, it's Derek Carr. Shout out to Jesse Pinkman still with that. 21 points for Derek Carr, 351 yards passing and 3 touchdowns. Due to all the quarterback injuries, it's likely he will be signed. I know the Bucks have Tony Romo out, and it's Tyrod Taylor, who was very good this week, but it doesn't hurt to have another guy there as a backup, so I'm sure we'll see him one of the top pickups this week. There'll be other quarterbacks out there too, so don't get mad at me, Kent, if someone signed Derek Carr on you. Finally, this week we'll take a look at what's to come in Week 3. Top game next week is the Cardinals and Kongs. There's a lot of middling games, 2-0 versus 1-1s, but that's the one I picked. We'll see if the Cardinals can keep their hot streak going. Their first 2 games are both high-point wins. And the Kongs, with their new weapons, will they be able to integrate into the game plan well? Also, if you can see down there, last year, 2 playoff teams of the 6 did start 0-2. So if you are 0-2, all hope is not lost. Still a long year. Maybe not if you're the little big men who your best players are out for a while. And Martavis Bryant is suspended 2 more games. But you'll see, Chad. Maybe you'll turn it all around. You can rub it all on our faces next year with your championship ring. So you have that to look forward to. Also, probably going to take a hiatus next week, but we will return in Week 4 with the Going Deep segments. For those of you who are new to the show, I look at the rosters, where you're strong, where you're weak, stuff like that, and maybe look at possible trades that could be made. So anyway, thanks for tuning in this week. We'll be back soon with more Morning After and more CFFL action. Thank you all.